Of Gallery Hojo. Thanks for joining us. I'm here today with one of our gallery painters, David Naranjo. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is David Naranjo. I'm from the fallen pueblos of Santa Clara, San Juan, Cochiti. I'm a little bit Diné, Navajo, and Hispanic as well, so your modern day mestizo, if you will. I graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts back in 2018, primarily focusing in painting and digital arts. However, I originally was going there for jewelry, but after exploring different avenues and getting collective insight from different teachers and instructors have really given me an opportunity to explore different avenues of creating work. And so I eventually stumbled on painting and digital art as my primary focus rather than jewelry.
Can you tell me a couple professors you worked with who were very influential?
Yeah, Neil Ambrose Smith was my printing instructor who always, he really wanted me to, again, explore different avenues of creating work. And so I utilized digital technology and linoleum block prints to create, some small block print works. But he was one of the more, stringent instructors that wanted me to just to continue to explore and keep creating and not always confined to, traditional means. And so Neil was one of them. Jeff Calm was another instructor that was very influential on my work. Nakona Burgess, he was awesome. And yeah, IAI is a place where you can be comfortable in creating, and it's just a great school to be able to, again, explore different avenues of just creating work.
So a lot of your design work, whether it's painting or you apply it to different media, shares an iconography with the historic Pueblo pottery from the Pueblos, especially that you are from, but in the Southwest in general. Can you tell me more about what draws you to that iconography and how it works in your work?
Right. So it's not just Pueblo pottery designs and iconography that has influenced my work, but it's really these designs that can be transcribed into other facets within our culture. Take, for instance, this vest here that has designs and symbols that are can be related to some of the work that you see here. And so I think it's great to showcase, different varying works to show how these symbols and iconography are transcribed in other ways, other than how they're not always confined to vessels or pottery.
Would you walk us through one of your paintings?
Sure. So with a lot of my paintings, I like to utilize and incorporate a lot of cultural Pueblo pottery symbols and iconography, as well as integrating some of these cultural traditional perceptions of the above, below, the spiritual and the physical. And so one way to depict some of these cultural traditional concepts in my work is by actually portraying it in my work. And so if you look at Tiguenu, this piece here on the left, and if you take an imaginary line and split it horizontally or vertically, you can see that they're two equal halves, or two halves of a whole, to suggest the above and the below, the spiritual and the physical perceptions that are prevalent within our communities. And I'm just utilizing traditional symbols and imagery to make that stand out in a way.
Your work does have a wonderful connection to abstraction in general, but you're thinking of placing it within like the 20th century concept of modernism, where trying for that very beautifully classically designed composition, and yet it is decidedly Southwest.
Right. I take a lot of my inspiration from back home, where it's primarily black on black pottery. And so I also like to integrate a little bit of some type of minerals, since these are designs that are coming from actual pottery pieces or vessels. I think it'd be a little bit more appropriate to add some type of mineral. And in this case, with Siguenu and Makua, there's already mica flakes within the pigment. So I think it makes the works a little bit more stronger in that respect.
So, and is the mica something you add to the paint?
No, it's actually already included within the acrylic as well. And so it just gives off a little scintillating, sparkling, factor when it glistens in the sun.
Well, you obviously take a lot of care with your painting. The lines are so perfectly placed, so parallel. How do you achieve that?
A lot of measuring, a lot of frog tape, and just repeating that process up until you get these very fine, crisp lines that you see today.
And what else would you like to tell us about your work? What draws you to applying your designs to scarves, bags, this beautiful kimono?
I think it's incredibly important to, again, branch out and create different ways of, producing art, in terms of, in this case, Puebloan art. And so I think by adding these age-old traditional Puebloan, designs onto more of modern, apparel like bags, scarves, it relates more of a modern age, more to people, who are younger, but also keeping the overall, integrity and meaning of the designs intact. So whenever you're out, working out or exercising, or have these designs adorned on the self, hopefully you can imbue some of these traditional cultural concepts into your own holistic approach of self-betterment, or really what it means to be a good neighbor here in the Southwest. So it's a good way to, again, push these age-old elements into new concepts, but a great way to use it as a teaching tool, a teaching method to those who aren't familiar with Puebloan culture or Puebloan design. And this would be a great introduction to that.
And in addition to pottery, as you mentioned, the woven work, the beautiful embroidery.
Right. Yeah, it's nothing new, really. We've always had these designs implemented and embedded within some of these articles of clothing, embroidery. The mantos, the men's wages are adorned with these traditional elements, not so much for their ornate qualities, but more so for their deep cultural, symbolic relevance within a cultural setting. And so I think that's what makes these designs powerful, because they're not used again for their ornate aesthetics, but means something so much more.
And do you approach the canvas with an already completed composition on paper?
Yeah, I like to work on Adobe Illustrator first, just to get the overall measurements, exact, and then I transfer, that onto the canvas by doing a basic grid system. But I first like to work in the middle. That just gives me a good determination of where to lay out the rest of the designs as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I would.
Well, that's a great way too, that you're combining your original interest in printmaking with painting. Yeah. Well, anything else you want to tell us about your work?
Um, I don't really see my work as art, but rather visual prayers and my personal way of, connecting to the divine. Um, and I think when I'm working on these, pieces, it's more so of a method to be more at peace, a reminder to, be thankful and, to respect everyone and everything that is inclusive um, within, our communities. So, yeah.
Well, that's such a beautiful thought. I feel like we should end there. Thank you so much for coming down and talking to us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Well, no, and then I'll let you introduce yourself. You're going to say whatever you want to say, introduce yourself, and then go. We can, if you don't launch right into your education, that sort of stuff, I'll probably cue you for that because I'm always curious when I see artists. I don't know why. I always like to know where they studied, who they studied with, who are their influences. I just think it's really interesting because nobody comes out of